For those, there's a lot of our viewers who would be like, they're kind of still in that tough circumstances and they're waiting for the luck to arrive and they're wondering, I've got dreams and the dreams aren't happening fast enough. Like, what advice would you offer them?
Don't be too hard on yourself and be patient. It's a kind of a mix that you have to go through, a bit of a dance. So on the one hand, you want to be serious about life. Life doesn't go on forever. Your youth will be over in 10, 12 years. You better believe it goes faster than you can imagine, right? You want to realize what your life's task is. You want to develop those skills that will make it so when you're in your 30s, things will come together as they fortunately did for me. It's a common story that 31, 32 is that year where things turn around for people, right? But on the other hand, you don't want to be so damn serious, so damn, linear in your thinking. You've got to head down this path to make this amount of money, etc. You're young. Have some fun, have some adventure, have some excitement. But at the same time, also have that sense of discipline, that sense of purpose. We normally associate intelligence with intellectuals, with our Noam Chomsky, with Albert Einstein. And he says, no, intelligence comes in all forms. Working with your hands is a form of intelligence. A carpenter has a high form of intelligence. People who are sports, who are athletic, who use their body, that's another form of intelligence. There's music, there's math, there's language. You have one of these frames of mind. By the way your brain is wired, you are inclined towards one of them. Figure that out. If you are somebody who's word-oriented and you end up going into a field that's about math or about numbers, you're in for a lot of pain in life. You have to look at the things that you love and the things that you hate. So what you don't like is very instructive to you, right? You're looking at things that are very powerful inside of you, that are emotional. They're not intellectual, they're feelings, they're emotions. They're visceral things that you connect to. Negative emotions are trying to teach you something. They're trying to teach you the opposite. Something else is going on. Frustration is a sign that you haven't given up. You know you can do something, but you haven't figured it out. So when you have those kind of feelings, look at them and there's something positive in that. It's never too late. It's better to start earlier on in life. I wrote a book, Mastery, that deals with that subject. The earlier you figure it out, the better off you are. But it can happen later in life. Now, I figured out at an early age that I wanted to write. I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I loved words and I loved writing. And if I didn't have that connection when I was 8 years old, all the way into high school and college, I would have been a lost soul. And I empathize with a lot of people who don't have that feeling when they're 8 or 18 or in their 20s. But I'm trying to tell people everybody has it. You're just not listening to yourself. You're on social media too much. You're listening to what other people are telling you. You're listening to what your parents told you should be doing in life. You're listening to what your friends think is cool. You're listening to what the culture is all about, the entertainment industry, etc. You got to cut all that bit out. You got to listen to yourself. And you got to be a bit bold. And you have to embrace what makes you different. I say what makes you weird because I know personally I'm a very weird person. I like it. I don't mind being weird. I use it to my advantage. I put it in my books. You have weirdness to you, whoever you are. Things that you might sometimes be a little bit ashamed or embarrassed or uncomfortable with, right? But you shouldn't be. What makes you different, what makes you particularly strange, if you want to use another word, is your strength, is your source of power. You've lost touch with it. Let's go back and try and find it. And that's the whole problem here. How do you find it? Well, it's a process. You have to be patient. It's not going to come like a light bulb in your head. I was meant to do this. I was meant to write the 48 Laws of Power. That's not how it works. It takes time. To do anything in life takes time and hours and patience and work. I recommend starting a journal and such and writing down some of the things that I think are important to you. So I like to tell people to go back to their earliest childhood memories of things that really excited them before they got mixed up with parents and teachers and all that, other people telling them stuff, Like for me, it was words and language. I just was entranced by the sound of language itself, right? It was like music to me. You had something like that. I know you do. And I am completely egalitarian. I believe everybody has that. When I wrote the book Mastery, which is what this book is about, to prove my point that everyone has it, I interviewed contemporary masters. And one of them is the woman Temple Grandin, who was born with high-level autism, right? she was going to be hospitalized for her entire life. When she was 2 or 3 years old, she had the good luck of finding the right teacher who brought her out of her shell. And she eventually became a very respected professor of animal research, right? She's absolutely brilliant. She also studies autism itself. If somebody with that kind of disability, that kind of thing, everything's stacked against her, if she can figure it out and reach mastery, then I certainly believe everybody has that potential. But I know it doesn't come easy. It's a process, and you have to be patient, but you have to put in the work. Now, the circumstances now, it's easy for me, a boomer, I have to admit that, to preach to you when you have gone through you've gone through a pandemic, what looks like to be a recession, and then if you're a millennial, you went through the crash in '08. It's easy for me to preach. You're dealing with really difficult circumstances. And there's what they call the Great Resignation now, is that it, right? So a lot of people are rethinking their lives. They don't want to work at crap jobs just to get by. And I applaud that 100%, right? That's great. So you want to think about working for yourself is the ultimate position of this world. And even though times are difficult, even though it may seem like just a dream, there's so much potential out there for entrepreneurial spirit, for creating your own startup, for creating your own podcast, for going your own path in life. You don't have to follow other people. It's not like it was when I was growing up. There were things that were better back then. There are things that were a lot worse, right? You have so many more options. It's just that you're not going to reach them. You're not going to be happy in this short time that you have to be alive, unless you take it seriously, unless you learn skills and develop and go through an apprenticeship in your 20s, etc. So if you can balance those two and still have some fun and adventure and excitement like I did, I don't want to hold myself to some model, but being an Irishman in Paris in my early 20s, I was having adventures, right? So just don't listen to your parents go, I got to be making $100,000 when I'm 23 and go to law school and do all this stuff. You're going to burn out. So kind of understand I guess the main thing I would say is know who you are, know what you're deep down in your core, what you love, what you hate, and what you were destined to create in this world. That's like the most important process you can go through.